Hello, this is Dr. Terry Gibson. Welcome back to Losing Stress and Living with Hope. I'm a nurse and an educator, and I'm so glad that you're joining me for this part 3 of this 5-part series. This is called Claiming the Crest, an EPA of Engagement. Just a note that this is educational purposes only, and we encourage you to check with your healthcare provider and their recommendations. And certainly, if you are facing extreme stress, please seek professional help so that you can be taken care of and live healthy and happy. But glad you've stepped in to talk with us. Hope we can have some help for you today. I want to offer a word of prayer as we begin. Father in heaven, people are stressed. Life is stressful. But we know that we can have peace in you. So we ask that you help us today. Give me words. May they be helpful. May people find hope. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Just for a review, the winning frog, the case for losing stress. We took a few minutes and talked about stress, what it is, some concepts, wanted to help you understand. We even asked you to take time yourself and kind of identify what are your stressors, what can you control, what can't you control, and then think about how ready are you to change your outcomes, because by taking action, you can have a difference days, months, years from now, and that's what we want. Part 2, a shiny nickel. Here we looked at frameworks, and essentially we said there are things that you can change, there's things that you can't. It's your attitude. What can you do about the stressors? What can you do about your response to the stressors? And should we actually have some goals so that you know what you're doing, and then you can track and see if you've made progress. Now we move on to part 3, and we're going to look at the physical aspects of how we can, some 3 primary ways of dealing with stress. First, we'll talk about optimal eating. Then we'll go to wholesome rest and rewarding activity. Again, I challenge you to try anything for 30 days. So let's see what might be available for us. First question, what attitude do you most admire? Are there people that you enjoy, that you say, whoa, I wish I could be like that person? And what is it about that person that makes you want to emulate them? Another question would be, what's your greatest challenge in life? If you were to think right now, what are you struggling with most? Hopefully through going through this series, we have something to offer that will not only speak to the person that you admire, and maybe you can emulate those as well, but also think about things that will make a difference in your biggest challenges. First, I want to go to a time when I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I lived there about 10 years, and there's the Sandia Crest. And that was something that we like to climb, the La Luz hike. It's actually about 7 miles. You gain about 4,000 feet of elevation. And it's beautiful up there on the crest. But if you were thinking about taking a hike or going somewhere, what do you think you would need for that hike? Well, I wanted good boots, and I did actually carry moleskin with me because on that trek there's the rock slide that 17, 18 switchbacks. Good shoes definitely made a difference. I wanted a good night's sleep so that I could actually be there at the trailhead 7:30 in the morning, maybe earlier, and then I was going to be at it for the next 4, 5, 6 hours on a steady, essentially step-by-step climb up to the top of the hill. I wanted a good breakfast. I wanted to take food with me, and believe me, those nourishing bars or nuts, some fruits, a good sandwich, plenty of water was very helpful as well. We also enjoyed going as a group, and usually there was 5 or 6 of us that would go up on this trail together, and we would steadily climb. The other thing is a little bit of preparation. Can you imagine going out and working out for 2 or 3 hours on a machine? How do you think you'd feel the next day? One time I actually took my step counter, my step tracker, and it was, I think, 20 or 24,000 steps that day. And a lot of those were climbing steps. So if I actually walked, which I did on a regular basis, that made my body able to handle the long-term exercise activity I was going to put it through that day. I liken that to our dealing with stress now. There are things that we can do that put us into the right perspective so that we can be ready to take care of whatever's coming our way. And so these 3 primary areas that we're talking about will do that. I think about, so let's think about eating. I know that there's tons of research out there on eating, nutrition, what to do. It's also controversial. Do I do this? Do I do that? There's a boatload of diets that we could look to. I like this comment. It says, food is important part of eating. It is. We can't get away from food. But food does influence how we feel, and so certainly there are some better choices that we can make in eating. It's part of our lives. So let's talk. Have you heard the whole food plant-based? That essentially means that a food pattern centered on minimally processed vegetables and fruits, whole grains, legumes with some nuts and seeds in moderation. It minimizes the use of meat and poultry and fish, dairy and eggs, added sugar and processed oils. So we're thinking about whole plants, eaten as close to a natural state as possible. And these actually help prevent disease and even reverse disease processes. We can think about heart disease and diabetes in particular. On the other hand, we have the SAD diet. You know what the SAD diet is? Oh, the standard American diet. That is the Western diet. And we know that it contributes to our chronic disease epidemic, like cancers and heart disease and diabetes. This is a diet that's high in refined flours and sugars, high-fat foods, plenty of processed packaged foods, and it's low in fiber, fruits and veggies, and other whole plant foods. But we know that nutrition plays a role in every aspect of what we're doing, and we know that the right food at the right time and the right amounts can help us feel better. What are the best foods? Well, the simple thing is fiber. If you think of fiber-filled foods, and those fiber is not found in meats or dairy, it's found in fresh veggies. We know that when you eat fiber, the rest of your digestive system works much better. Also, when we eat and when is directly correlated with how we feel. If you're eating too close at night, your sleep's going to be affected. If you eat too much and then try to exercise, that's going to be a problem. So we want the right amount, the right times a day. There is the idea of eating like a king in the morning, a prince at noon, and then a pauper or lighter in the evening can help. So what do? Poland has a book out, and his simple idea is eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. So that kind of brings us down to eat a variety of foods and eat a rainbow of color. Fill at least half your plate with fruits and veggies, especially when you go through potluck line, right? If you can fill that half plate with those veggies and fruits, and then have a little bit of room for the grains and the meats or the proteins that you need. Eat whole grains and consume more beans, peas, and lentils, including some seeds and nuts. And then also you want to stay hydrated. Water's the best beverages. I haven't said much about it, but sweetened drinks are a problem, especially that high fructose corn syrup. So we encourage you to have water, and there's no calories. You can drink plenty of it. I mean, you can't drink too much probably, but it's hard to do that. Most of us are generally dehydrated, but drinking water at the right times. Encourage you to limit processed foods. This would be for two reasons. Processed foods usually have a lot of sodium in it, and we can control our sodium when we fix the food ourselves. And for some people, especially those who have blood pressure problems, which is called the silent killer, this high sodium can be a problem in that regard. Also, they usually have lots of sugars and fats and more calories than you want. So we also encourage you to avoid alcohol and caffeine. We know that these influence the quality of sleep. So just some overview to help you. I hope that that makes sense in terms of the diet that would be helpful and wholesome. And actually, when we think about what God gave us in the Garden of Eden originally, that's what it was: fresh fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts. A sensible eating plan should be focused on health-promoting foods and individual enjoys while not being overly restricted when it comes to special occasions. Because eating is such a big part of our life, we can't live on the idea that we're not going to have this, we're not going to have this, oh, I don't eat it, I don't eat that. But rather, enjoy the food you're eating, and those that maybe you know aren't the best for you, you could have in smaller portions or at the right times. Besides, if you give your taste buds about 30 days, they'll actually adapt to some of these foods that are better for you that may not have previously liked before. So there's some healthy eating for you. Let's move on to wholesome rest. We know that sleep touches nearly every aspect of our physiology and psychology, of our interactions with our world and with others. Again, there's a whole science on sleep. There's sleep labs, there's books, articles, plenty written about sleep. And so I can't be exhaustive today in what I'm presenting, but I do have some highlights that I would like to share with you about that. Most people need 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And for some reason, in our busyness of life, we tend to cut sleep short, and some of us suffer car accidents or things because we just don't stay awake. And it's amazing how many people that happens to, and it happens so quickly and without knowing. Healthy sleep boosts mood. Your IQ is improved, your memory and concentration, and you actually decrease the risk of heart disease, diabetes, depression, and anxiety when you get that good sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. Unfortunately, sleep orders are on the rise. Naps can offset sleep debt. If you keep shortening the amount of time that you sleep or go time without sleep, you accumulate this debt, and naps will help against that. But if you don't pay off that debt, then it will be taken from you in terms of sickness, mood changes, and ongoing fatigue. Your performance, your vigilance, your alertness, your decision making, all are affected by the sleep that you get on a regular basis. It may surprise you that even going 17 hours without sleep or that prolonged time is like a 0.05% blood alcohol level. And if you go 24 hours without sleep, it puts you up at 0.1%. Do you know what the legal driving limit of alcohol is? 0.08. So going without sleep can actually affect you like having alcohol, and I don't think you want that, especially if you're trying to be alert and taking care of family or going to work or going to school. So things to think about. We think that we can eat into our sleep, but it does have its effect on us, and is affected by stress, and then also enhances stress as well. So what influences sleep? Some things that we think about: noise. We can think about our phones and computers. That blue light can actually change the chemicals and make it so we don't sleep as readily, or it delays our sleep onset. Anxiety, worry, things that we see on the news, all medications, all of those can influence our sleep. But let's move to the positive side. What can we do about sleep? First of all, establish a routine. It's really helpful. What do you do when you go to bed? Well, I brush my teeth, I drink some water, I check all the lights in the house. Whatever it is you do, do a routine. We also encourage you to wind down and shut down. So maybe like an hour before your bedtime, turn off the computer, maybe pull out a book, chat with your spouse if you have one, listen to some music, maybe a warm shower. Those are things that can help your mind, tell your mind, yes, I'm really ready to sleep. And we know from studies that actually about 10 o'clock that melatonin starts to rise. And of course some of you are late sleepers or early sleepers otherwise, but just being cognizant of winding down and shutting down and trying to mimic those circadian rhythms that we normally go through. Bed and bedroom should only be for sleep and sex. Move out the TV, move out those other things that might inhibit that. So you train your brain that when I lay down, I'm going to shut down and go to sleep. Get comfortable. Usually cooler is better. You should have some blankets. There's a thought that putting socks on your feet can actually help with your circulation in the right spots. We also know that regular physical activity can enhance sleep. Now, if you're doing it right before bedtime, probably not. And they find that those who are conditioned to exercise actually get more benefit. Myself, when I was kind of checking on things, I felt like the 30 minutes I spent exercising meant that I slept 30 minutes less. So just something to think about. Exercising, I did not cut into my day because my sleep was better and took less time. When you eat dinner, think about finishing it 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, so you've had time to digest. And of course, a lighter meal would be digested sooner and help you settle down and sleep. Avoid nap taking if you tend toward insomnia, although they do say that 20 to 30 minute short naps may actually help. And then develop healthy thinking about sleep. What are you going to do proactively to address it? You can do this, you can settle down, you can get a good night's sleep. The other thing I've said both sleep and rest, and we have a biblical injunction to keep the seventh-day Sabbath. God suggests commands that we work 6 days and rest a seventh. And in the seventh, He has created a special holy day. And He created the Sabbath for us, and He wants to commune with us in that time. And so taking the seventh day Sabbath, Saturday, to rest and set aside what we normally do has great benefits for us. It's actually amazing how many authors talk about this, and they talk about having a Sabbath and a Sabbath rest. We encourage you to take time off from your usual routine, whether rest. We encourage you to commune with God, commune with family, think about some inspirational writing, thinking about some reflection, thinking about time with your family out in nature. God knew what He was doing when He said, here's the Sabbath, I encourage you to rest. And we encourage you to try that as well. See what that does to your overall settling in your stress levels when you take that time to set aside and do different. What do you think? Does that help with sleep? I hope that gave you some basic ideas that you can deal with that are useful. As you get more rest, your stresses will go down. On the other hand, as you deal with your stresses, your sleep should improve. And if you want more information, there'll be some resources available later. I encourage you to check those out as well. All right, let's think about activity. What do we know about activity? If we could give every individual the right amount of nourishment and exercise, not too little, not too much, we would have found the safest way to health. Do you believe it? Food and exercise, well, and we'll throw in sleep, make a difference on health. Physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, it's the basis of a dynamic and creative intellectual activity. So let's look about it. No matter what your age, your ability, all individuals will benefit from exercise on a regular basis. The body's designed to move, and life is enhanced when on a physically active, even if you're suffering from chronic disease and have limitations. There are things that you can do to be physically active. It affects all systems of the body. To highlight a few, it actually improves your cholesterol and reduces blood pressure, which helps protect against those chronic diseases like heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes. It can relieve constipation and promote your digestive system. It strengthens your immune system. Various types of exercise keep your body toned and flexible and able to handle the normal rigors of a daily life. It keeps your bones strong and resistant to injury, as well as improving injury recovery time if you do have something that happens. Do you believe this? It facilitates new brain cell development, it promotes transmission of the oxygen and other nutrients to the cells and removal of waste. It can improve your cognitive functioning and help you focus better and learn more. It also manages and maintains your blood sugar levels better, and it lowers stress, that hormone cortisol. It promotes positive lung function. It can have a positive and powerful effect on depression and anxiety. It's actually associated with the alpha brain waves, so when you are physically active, you actually will sleep better and feel more rested. It enhances dopamine production, which is associated with reward, motivation, and pleasure. Hard to believe all these things, and I've only touched on a few, but when you exercise, you actually have more help for making better choices in life, and life goes better. They do suggest that there are several types of exercise. There's stamina, that aerobic cardio fitness, so getting some of that 20 to 30 minutes multiple days in the week is very helpful. Strength or resistance training helps you, like calisthenics or weights or water aerobics, that you build up those muscles throughout your body. Suppleness or flexibility, it's helpful to make sure that you do some stretching, and that's actually better that you do after you've warmed up and been active. There's also stability, working on balance, so you can do planks or those one-footed, other-footed kind of things, and that will help. When it comes to exercise, we encourage that you choose wisely. Not every exercise is going to be for every person. You need to look at what are your unique needs in your situation, and what kind of activities can you do that will actually mimic what you do on a daily basis. What fits your comfort zone, although I also challenge you sometimes to push that comfort zone a little bit and try something new. I know that when we we called it Super Fit Kids we had kids and families come in, and we taught them. We brought in a jump rope team, and we played with jump ropes. We tried Zumba. We did some, they had a lot of fun with the relays. We do relay races, and they had balance and other things that we could do, and different things that expose families to fun things that they could do together. Fitness or exercise does not have to be getting on that treadmill and spending 30 minutes. Maybe you enjoy that, and that's good. I actually like to walk, and I have a stationary cycle, and when I do my cycle, I like to have a good book that I'm reading. I've also started doing some videos, and that's been kind of fun to trade up some videos and work on some overall toning and do some exercises I wasn't familiar with. But what works for you, what will you enjoy, you'll do it more often if you do. Sometimes it's really hard to build that exercise habit. But when I wake up in the morning and do I really want to do this? Well, the benefits of exercise and how I feel when I do exercise means that yes, I'm going to keep doing it. So what are some ideas? Well, maybe you have a Frisbee, or I know disc golf is the thing that some people like to do, and it has you together with people and you're out walking and you're trying challenges. Maybe you have a walking partner. Walking is like the easiest thing to do. When it's hot outside, maybe you can go to a mall, or maybe you can choose early in the morning, having a person with you. Some people need to buy a dog because the dog needs to walk. So if you get the dog, then you can go take that walk. If you're a person who has less mobility, I encourage you to pull up a chair, and maybe even put it out on the porch and do some armchair aerobics, because certainly you can move those legs. And I actually challenge any of you to sit down in a chair and start doing 10 and 20 leg lifts and see how much you can do. How many arm lifts can you do? Need some weights? Go to the cupboard and grab out a can of food and see, can you lift those over your head? Those kinds of things will challenge you. They're right available. Have kids in the house? Well, make a game of it. Turn on some fun music and pull out some different things, and have somebody lead at different times, and make it a fun time where you're active. Another thing to think about is after you eat, 20 to 30 minute low-level exercise will help with the digestion. For those that have blood sugar issues, it will help moderate the blood sugar, and it would be better for all of us. Does that give you some ideas on activity? Have I convinced you that activity is good? Recently I read an article by Victor Perichin, and he suggests that you take your exercise outdoors. I actually like outdoors every morning. It's been really nice, and we do it soon enough. The sun's not really high, but that sunlight coming into my eyes will actually then help me sleep better at night. The fresh air, the greenery, the air's better than inside a gym. My vision improves because I'm looking around. There's something about green and trees that they've discovered is really helpful. And actually they did some studies and found that women that spent, have you heard about the women in, I think it was Japan, that they would go out in the woods for 2 to 4 hours, 2 consecutive days, and they actually found that their cancer fighting cells had 50% increase in ability to function. And I mean, do we need cancer fighting cells to be working? For sure. So enjoyment can be great when you're outside. Vitamin D, you get that vitamin D, and that's really helpful as well. So I don't know your form of exercise. I remember a doctor was once asked, well, what kind of water should I drink? You know what his response was? The kind you'll drink. Really? Yes, same with exercise. What kind of exercise should I do? The kind that you'll do, the kind that's not too hard on you. If you do have some severe challenges and you are concerned about that, please go see a physician. But I do encourage you to start slow, but start. I think about when I worked in a lifestyle rehabilitation center, we had people that could barely move, but we put them on this kind of whole food, plant-based diet and encouraged them to take some walking. And there was one person that stayed on the bottom floor, and they could barely walk just inside this mansion to the meals. But they said, okay, if you're sure, and they would start, and they walked out this door a few steps, and then they came back, and the next day, and they kept doing that. And within 2 or 3 days, and by the time they had been there 2 or 3 weeks, they could actually make it this much greater distance. So just by doing, they were able to improve in that regard. So we've talked about good eating, we've talked about good sleep, we've talked about exercise. A couple other things I want to mention that haven't been touched on yet is that breathing is a big deal. In fact, I've read in several places, there's this idea, and you can do it in bed if you're having trouble sleeping, but you could do it anytime during the day, and that is to Breathe in, count to 4, hold for 7, and then breathe out for 8. And doing that 2 or 3 times. And what that does is that will help activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and it'll break the stress cycle. Are you game? Can you try it with me? So let's try it. I'll count. So here we go. In for 4, 3, 4, hold it for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ready to try it one more time? Okay, here we go. In for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and let it out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Of course, if you're going to do that, you probably need to loosen the belts, loosen the garments, but good breathing can just help clear your head and make you feel better. So something to try. There's also relaxation exercises that people have done where you start from head to toe or either way and you tighten and loosen. And there's even some apps for those kinds of things, special music. If that appeals to you, then I encourage you to try that. But none of this works if you don't engage. And that was kind of the point with this, an EPA of engagement. You can do even one thing, and trying one thing will make a difference. So I didn't mean to overwhelm you with all the different things that you can do. And I don't know which area makes sense to you or appeals to you. But I encourage you to try one thing and do that for a while. And if you've got that down and want to add one more, then do that as well. So the other thing is also, I didn't touch on substance use and abuse. Drugs, stimulants, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, even prescription drugs. All of those have an influence on our system. And sometimes we stimulate ourselves so we can up and going, and then we've got to do something to get ourselves back down, relaxing. And I think that as we add, I know that as we add in some of these other parts to our life, that we can moderate the need for those and be better off in general. I hope what I've offered today makes sense for you. I encourage you to study further if you want to know more about it, and we'll provide some resources for that. So let's think about next time. I've called it Pie for All. And we're going to examine the principles of living for life, living a life of joy and satisfaction, because really that's what we're about. We're losing stress and we're going to live with hope. And there are things that we can do that have positive inspiration, encouragement for you. As always, I'd like to read our Serenity Prayer, because isn't that what we're kind of settled here? God, give us the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that should be changed, and then we need the wisdom to know the difference. And God wants you to be able to know the difference. He loves you. He cares about you. He wants you to be stress-free. I like this view from Sandy Crest. It says, catch the vision, make the effort, enjoy the results, because we know that when you take action, things happen. I have one more I want to share with you here from one of my favorite authors. If you are burdened and weary, you need not curl like leaves upon a withered branch. Cheerfulness and a clear conscience are better than drugs and will be an effective agent in your restoration and health. You will benefit from the effort you make to be cheerful. Get out of doors as much as possible. Be benefited from the breezes and the blessed sunshine. Let the songs of the birds and the beauties of nature awaken holy and grateful feelings in your heart and lead you to enjoy your Creator, who has anticipated your wants and surrounded you with unnumbered tokens of His love and comfort and care. God's endowed us with a certain amount of vital force. He's formed us with organs suited to maintain the various functions of life. He designs that these organs work together in harmony. If we carefully preserve the life force and keep the delicate mechanism in the body in order, the result is health. But if the vital force is too rapidly exhausted, the nervous system borrows power from present and uses its resources to gather strength. And when one organ is injured, all are affected, and we know that. So I encourage you, let's lose the stress. Let's live with hope by taking action on the things that we can control, and specifically those that affect the health of our physical body. Signing off today. We'll see you next time.